Hello and welcome to Channels Book Club. I'm Olakunle Kasumo. First it was Abuja, then Enugu, and here we are in Port Harcourt, the great Port Harcourt city, the capital of Rivers State. Beautiful, beautiful city. As usual, when I go into a new city, it's not exactly new for me, but when I go into a city or a town, I like to find out a little bit about its history. Port Harcourt was founded in 1912. That was back in the days. Nigeria was established in 1914, so it was, Port Harcourt is pre-Nigeria, if I may say so. And interestingly, it looks like a big city when you are inside of it, but Port Harcourt has a population of just about 1.8 million people. I say just about because I'm based in Lagos, where we are about 20 million people. It's a massive, massive difference. Now, another interesting thing about Port Harcourt is it's named after a gentleman who was a colonial officer called Louis Vernon Harcourt. Now, that is a very interesting character. And part of his story is extremely controversial. I don't want to mention it on TV. You should go and do a check yourself and you'll find out what I'm talking about. Very controversial part of his story. But nevertheless, Port Harcourt is really, really a great city. And I've been having a lot of fun here. Part of the fun I've been having is reading this book titled The Will to Win. The Will to Win is the story of Biodun Shobanjo. Biodun Shobanjo is one of the most iconic figures in Nigeria's business community, and he's regarded by most as the guru of marketing communications and advertising industries in Nigeria. For those who have always wondered what his story is and how he became such a success, this new book titled The Will to Win, which is a biography on his life, has just been released. The book is authored by Dotun Adekanbi, and it tells Biodun Shobanjo's story in a way that has never been told before. The advertising legend hosted Channels Book Club to review his book and share his story. We will show you the first part of that interview today, and then during our next episode, we'll show you the concluding part of the interview. Enjoy it. Mr. Shobanjo, thanks for hosting us on Channels Book Club.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Thank you very much, sir. The Will to Win, is it a book that captures your story, quote and unquote, in its entirety? Oftentimes biographies or autobiographies, they capture the entire story of an individual. At other times, while reading, you get a sense that there is a lot missing. While I was reading this, I felt it captured basically, or it covered all the bases, really. But what's your opinion about The Will to Win? Does it capture your story as much as you would like it to?
Everything that's in that book, as far as I can tell, reflects who I am. It literally captures my life from beginning to where we are today. And so the inputs that we needed to give to ensure that the story is robust can be said to have been done.
The Will to Win, it seems to summarize what has driven you in your business and your career. Can you talk to me a bit about that? That's the title of the book, The Will to Win.
After my father died, something snapped in me based on what my late uncle told me. And basically it was, look, you have to stop this nonsense between you and your father, not facing your studies properly. Because when my father died, because of the circumstance of the time, I was literally promoted on trial to the next class. Not on trial. Yes, I think I was promoted on trial. So he was very furious and said, if your father can take this, I can't. If you fail, that's the end of your education. So at that stage, something snapped. And then that will to want to win started. And this was my Form 2 going to Form 3. And that has defined my life. I'm one person who just likes to win. All right. Maybe because by the time I actually finished my secondary school, I was the head boy, what you call the senior prefect. So being number one, and you couldn't be a senior prefect if you didn't come first. So that attitude of always wanting to come first has, again, psychologically been stuck somewhere in my brain. And therefore, I drive for this excellence. I drive for this will to succeed. I drive for this will to win, as it were.
Usually when I read biographies, I'm always looking for secrets to success. If I'm reading the biography or the story of somebody I consider successful, I'm always looking for what made him or her the person he or she has become. And I saw a lot of that in your book. I want to point out aspects of your background that I felt were fundamental to who you became later in life, and I would like to get your opinion on whether or not these are correct observations. Number one is the way your parents brought you up, particularly the influence of your dad, on your life. I saw that even though he died when you were very young, but it looked like those first few years when he was alive had tremendous impact on your life years after. Is that a correct observation?
That's very correct. Sometimes, on reflection, I would always think that, did this man know he was going to die young, to the extent that he impacted so much in my life? And after he died, members of my family, the extended family, my father's senior brother, cousins, they were all very worried as they saw me grow up. And they nursed the fear that I could also die young, like my father, because I was too much like a carbon copy of him.
Let me read page 59 and page 58, 59. I'll read from page 58. He then would pull his slippers off his feet and scour the immediate surrounding with his bare feet to seek out evidence that the floor was dirt-free. That's your dad. If he felt a speck of sand with the sole of his feet, someone's day was ruined. He was such a perfectionist, everyone knew not to mess about with his cleanliness in his domain. He loved to meet his house as squeaky clean in the evenings as he had left it in the mornings. Members of his household knew quickly that disorder in whatever form was all that was required to shatter the peace of the home. Details like that are important to me when I'm reading a book. So before meeting you, I thought that was a question I would ask. How impactful were those small details? You became somebody like that too, by reputation. The way you dress and you're perfectionist in nature and all that. How important were those details you observed in his life? Not just him, but also your mom. And how impactful are such things in the lives of people that we consider successful or have reached the heights in their careers and so on?
I think the foundation of any individual usually start from the home. And in my own case, what I saw my parents do, especially my father, really, I don't know how, they just kept going into my brain. And as I grew up and began to chart my own course, those things just became second nature. Without being immodest, you entered this house, you could find that everything is in place. That is just not something that happened today. It's been part of my life. And if you go to my children's houses, you would most likely find the same thing. You may not find opulence, but the things are kept where they needed to be. And the environment is always very clean. So they imbibed that from me, just like I did from my parents. And I hope that it keeps going on from generation to generation.
Do you believe in the concept of self-made success? So I'm saying he's a self-made millionaire, he's a self-made billionaire, it's a self-made man. Do you believe in that? Your story does not support, that concept or philosophy. A lot of people made you from the story. The influence of your dad, the influence of your principal at OGS, the influence of your cousin, the influences of many people. The story seemed to convey the fact that different people molded and influenced you and ultimately made you who you are.
That's correct. It doesn't usually happen that you find an individual who is just alone. There will be various people as you go on in the journey of life who you would come in contact with. And the kind of influence or impact they make in your lives would ultimately determine how you move, the trajectory that you're going to pursue. And I think that is what this story is all about. Whether they are rich or they're not very rich is immaterial. It is those values that they bring to the party that would ultimately decide or define who you turn out to be. My principal, I can never forget him. He's late now, but as mentioned in that book, he was an incredible man who, even though we did not realize it as young children in those days, but today we can look back and say, thank God for this man, what he did to all of us who went through him, as indeed my late cousin, Baragbega, as indeed a couple of other people that I was privileged to meet, who were very close in nurturing me. Because, you see, in life, it is not just your parents who would nurture you. We need to understand that. There will be other influences at school, at home, amongst relations. And if you can open your eyes and open your ears and listen to what they say and what they do, they naturally would impact you one way or the other.
I would like you to say something about how your wife has been influential. It's there in the book anyway, I'm sure, when readers pick it up to read. But I would like to get your view on that part of your life.
I think Joyce has been an incredible partner. To put it in context, when we started the company, we didn't have money at all. 128,000 working capital, 104,000 debt, in manner of hiring air conditioners, on hire purchase from Leventis, and tables and desks and generator. Everything we took a couple of things on hire purchase. And then we wanted to do up, again, knowing who I am, she felt, oh no, we needed to put potted plants here and there. So she would go and buy the potted. We didn't have the money. She would go and buy from our very beginning. Put plants all over the place and all that, made it look very nice. Came to look at the curtains and all that and all that. So she's always been there from the home front and even in the office. Most importantly is that for you to succeed in life, your home front must be properly organized. If you don't have peace at home, you're in trouble. And Joyce ensures that happens.
This is a story of small beginnings and then, growing and growing. When you see that in young people now, in young entrepreneurs, when you see them at that stage of small beginnings, Does it worry you that in some, they don't seem to understand that concept, that this is where it all starts and you grow from here?
One of the reasons I'd like this book to get in the hands of hundreds, if not thousands of young Nigerians is that I want them to learn and see where I am, where I have come from. All right? Because, there's that temptation, people want to look at Aliko Dangote and look at Mike Adenuga and look at, those guys have also worked. They have worked. Because in the case, I knew Aliko way back. And in the book, the story was told. In a house that I lived, Chilaka Close, when I left as the tenant, Aliko was the next tenant in that house. So these people have worked. I have entered Molue in this Lagos. I've entered Damfo. I have entered all sorts of. So if somebody sees me, I'm in a Jeep and all that, he thinks, oh, so this guy, okay, so that's not the way it is. You got to start from somewhere. And I don't know. I can tell you that 75, 80% of successful people have gone by that same route. You got to crawl before you walk. So you'll get to the top, but you got to follow. There's a process. I think what most young people do is to circumvent that process or circumvent those processes.